impression passed off as the restful contented feeling induced by a good meal came over me. As for Jack Penny, he spread himself out along the ground, resting his thin body, and went on eating with his eyes half shut, while Gyp, his dog, came close alongside him and sat respectfully waiting till his master balanced a bone across his nose, which Gyp tossed in the air, caught between his jaws, and then there was a loud crunching noise for a few minutes, and the dog was waiting again. Jimmy was eating away steadily and well, as if he felt it to be his bounden duty to carry as much of the store of food neatly packed away inside him as it was possible to stow, when he suddenly caught sight of Gyp and stopped short, with his mouth open and a serious investigating look in his eyes. He saw the dog supplied twice with what he evidently looked upon as dainty bits, and a broad smile came over his countenance. Then he looked annoyed and disappointed, and as if jealous of the favour shown to the beast. The result was that he left the spot where he had been lying half way between us and the carriers, and went to the stream, where he lay flat down with his lips in the water and drank, and then came quietly up to my side, where he squatted down in as near an imitation of Gyp as he could assume, pouting out his lips and nose and waiting for a bone. The doctor burst out laughing, while I could not tell whether to set it down to artfulness or to simple animal nature on the poor fellow's part. However, I was too English at heart to lower my follower, so I did not treat him like a dog, but hacked off a good bone and sent him to his place. We thoroughly enjoyed our meal, and, as the doctor said, somewhat lightened our loads, when all at once it seemed to me that a spasm ran through Jack Penny where he lay. Then, as I watched him, I saw his hand stealing toward his gun, and he looked at me and pointed towards where a dense patch of big trees formed a sort of buttress against the great green wall of the forest. For a few moments I could see nothing, and then I started, and my hand also went towards my piece, for peering around the trunk of one of the trees, and evidently watching us, was one of the most hideous looking faces I had ever seen. The eyes were bright and overhung by dark wrinkled brows, and seen in the half light the head seemed as large as that of a man. In fact, I was convinced that it was some fierce savage playing the spy upon our actions. I felt better when I had fast hold of my gun, not that I meant to fire, only to protect myself, and I was reaching out a foot to awaken the doctor, who had thrown himself back with his hat over his face, when I found that Gyp had caught sight of the hideous countenance, and with a fierce bay he dashed at the creature. Jack Penny and I started to our feet. Jimmy went after the dog, waddy in hand, and his yell awakened the doctor, who also sprang to his feet just in time to see the creature leap up at a pendant branch, swing itself up into the tree, and disappear amongst the thick leafage, while Gyp barked furiously below. "Big monkey that, my lads," said the doctor. "I did not know we should see anything so large." Jack Penny was all eagerness to follow and get a shot at the animal, but though he looked in all directions, and Gyp kept baying, first at the foot of one tree, then at the foot of the other, he did not see it again. Where it went it was impossible to say. Perhaps it travelled along the upper branches, swinging itself from bough to bough by its long arms, but if it did, it was all so silently that not so much as a leaf rustled, and we were all at fault. I was not sorry, for the idea of shooting anything so like a human being, and for no reason whatever, was rather repugnant to my feelings, so that I did not share in my companion's disappointment. "Depend upon it, he has not gone far," said the doctor, when Jack Penny stood staring at the tree where we saw the ape first. "There, lie down, my lad, and rest. And hullo! What's the matter with Jimmy?" I turned to see the black standing close by, his waddy in one hand, his boomerang in the other, head bent, knees relaxed, an expression of the greatest horror in his face as he shivered from head to foot and shook his head. "Why, what's the matter, Jimmy?" I cried. "Bunyip," he whispered. Big bunyip debble. Debble. Eat all a man up. Bunyip up a tree." "Get out!" I said. "It was a big monkey." "Yes, big bunyip monkey. Come away." For the sudden disappearance of the ape had impressed Jimmy with the idea that it was what the Scottish peasants call no canny, and as it was his first interview with one of these curious creatures there was some excuse for his apparent fear, though I'm not certain that it was not assumed. For Jimmy was no coward as long as he was not called upon to encounter the familiar demons of his people, the word bunyip being perhaps too often in his mouth. The black's dread went off as quickly as it came, when he found that he was not noticed, and for the next 2 hours we lay resting, Jack Penny and I seeing too many objects of interest to care for sleep. Now it would be a great beetle glistening in green and gold, giving vent to a deep-toned buzzing hum as it swept by. Then a great butterfly, 8 or 9 inches across, would come flitting through the trees, to be succeeded by something so swift of flight and so rapid in the flutter of its wings that we were in doubt whether it was a butterfly or one of the beautiful sunbirds that we saw flashing in the sunshine from time to time. It proved afterwards to be a butterfly or day moth, for we saw several of them afterwards in the course of our journey. Over the birds Jack Penny and I had several disputes, for once he took anything into his head, even if he was wrong, he would not give way. "These are humming birds," he said, as we lay watching some of the lovely little creatures that were hovering before the flowers of a great creeper, and seemed to be thrusting in their long beaks. "No," I said, "they're not humming birds," and I spoke upon my mother's authority, she in turn resting on my father's teaching. "There are no humming birds here. They are found in America and the islands." "And out here," said Jack dictatorially. "There they are. Can't you see 'em?" "No," I said, "those are sunbirds, and they take the place of humming birds out here in the East." "Nonsense! Think I don't know a humming bird when I see one? Why, I saw one at Sydney, stuffed." "When you two have done disputing," said the doctor, "we'll start." "Look here, doctor, ain't those humming birds?" said Jack. "No, no, doctor," I cried. "They are sunbirds, are they not?" "I don't know," said the doctor. "Let's make haste on and ask the professor." I sprang to my feet as if stung by a reproach, for it seemed to me as if I had been thinking of trifles instead of the great object of my mission. Chapter 10. How we saw strange things.